White and pink roses formed spots of striking colour against the dense green hedges as Gemma Haverford walked through the gardens of her home. She let her fingertips touch the petals of the roses as she headed toward the centre of the garden. Twilight was her favourite time of day. Birds began to quiet their singing. The sunlight softened, giving everything a soft glow. Gemma took a seat on a cool marble bench at the centre of the maze of hedges and rose bushes. Her hands trembled as she smoothed out her skirts. She was anxious enough that her knees knocked together too, but she couldn't banish her nerves. It wasn't every day that she wore her best gown, an almost sheer sky-blue silk, for a secret garden rendezvous. Everything needed to be perfect. She'd gone to great effort to have her lady's maid tame the wild waves of her hair and help to slightly dampen her gown to cling better to her form, which bore only the veiled protection of a single filmy shift. She had to look her best tonight. At 25, she was past the age where most women found it easy to marry. One of her distant cousins had callously remarked earlier that year that she was so far back on the shelf that she was collecting dust. Gemma, feeling a little too irritated at the remark, and having one too many cups of arak punch, had sneezed at him as though he were the one covered in dust. Not her finest moment. She had nearly dissolved in a fit of unladylike giggles at his horrified expression when he'd struggled to find the handkerchief in his waistcoat to wipe his face. There was a very good reason she hadn't married, but she couldn't tell anyone. Not even her parents, why she'd turned down more than one suitor over the years. For 11 years, she had kept herself out of the hunt for husbands, believing, knowing, that she would marry one man, James Randolph, her childhood sweetheart. He and his best friend, Jasper Holland, had enlisted in His Majesty's Navy as young midshipmen. James had been 14, and Jasper, half a year older, had been 15. For 11 long years the two men had been gone, making their fortunes on the high seas, but now they set to return home, to marry and settle down. She had not seen them in all that time, but she knew in her heart of hearts that James was coming for her. His letters to her had been steady and filled with reassurances of his affection and his intent to marry her as soon as he came home. And now it was time. What would he be like after so many years? Had he changed like she had? Grown taller, more muscular, more handsome than the wild young man who'd dashed off to sea? Would he be stern as a husband after commanding men and warships? Or would he be gentle with her after so many hard years at sea and want nothing more than a quiet country life full of friends and family within an easy walk of one's home? It was what she'd always wanted. She'd never cared for London and the fast pace of the city. She adored the country, the birds, the green lands, the sheep. Even the garden parties that her neighbours threw often were an amusement she enjoyed. Would James want the same thing? Gemma nibbled her bottom lip, glancing about the gardens. Wisteria hung over trellises to the entrance of this particular part of the garden, the thick blooms almost like wildflowers, strung on green vines over the white-painted wood. How lovely it was here tonight. How perfect, too. She couldn't resist smiling. Just that morning she had received James's latest letter, telling her he would seek her out in the gardens tonight for a private audience, away from the eyes of parents and chaperones. Tonight. The one word held such promise. Enclosed in James's letter was a soft strip of black gauzy cloth embroidered with silver stars. The letter instructed her to wait until twilight and then blindfold herself for his arrival because he wished to surprise her. A wave of heat flooded her cheeks at the thought of being so vulnerable and alone with him in such a manner, but another part of her heated in strange, unfamiliar places. She knew meeting him here like this wasn't proper, and if anyone found out, she'd be compromised. But this was James. Her James. The man she trusted more than anyone else in the world, except for her father. The temptation to meet him here, even in secret, was irresistible.